Hi all, so I have something a little different for you today. I wanted to share this piece I got fairly recently at an online auction. This is a squash blossom necklace. It's a bit of an unusual one. It is silver. Instead of turquoise, it does have these probably onyx, maybe obsidian square stones. I'm not 100% sure on the age. Some people are saying this is older. Some people are saying this is made to look old, but it's newer. If I had to guess, I would say it was probably mid-20th century. I have seen a few necklaces with very similar beads from that time period. Now this guy, it is in very rough shape. You can see several of the beads have split. And the only way to really fix those, I feel, is to take them off and resolder them back together. So that's part of what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a restoration on this necklace and kind of share that with you. You can see this piece even has what looks like a piece of unmelted solder in it. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. There's another bead. There's 4 or 5 different beads on here. At least 5 I counted that are split open like that. And you can see the hook and eye on this are just soldered right to the chain. So I'm going to replace that chain. It had some spots on it that looked like it was pretty weak there, so it might break. So I'm going to put a new foxtail chain on this. I do want to preserve as much of the original finish as possible. I prefer with my squash blossoms not to take any of the finish off. Unfortunately, in this case, because these beads have to be resoldered to be put back together properly, that won't really be an option with this one. And yeah, this one is really just tarnished to the point where it's just dirty. Even handling it, my hands get dirty just touching it. You can see this one, I rubbed a little of the tarnish off, and you can see it has a very interesting stamp pattern. There are actually a few on this necklace that look like they may have come from another necklace, so I'm not sure if this might have been like pieced together from several old pieces. Fortunately, this naja does just come off. It has that hook style, so I can just take this off and maybe just do a little light cleaning on that and not have to worry too much about that. I will have to take this apart definitely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do restoration on this and kind of share with you as I go and make just one video. First things first, I'll probably take some pictures just so I know where everything goes when I put this back together. I'm going to take it all off the string. I'm going to do hopefully some pretty light cleaning on most of the beads. The ones that have split apart, I am going to have to put heat to, so that is going to kind of ruin the finish on those. They'll have to go and get heat on them. They'll have to go in the pickle afterward. So those ones are going to have to probably get refinished to kind of match the rest. But I'll share a few of the steps with you in this video. So I'll get back to you in what'll be a minute for you, and it'll probably be a few days for me. Okay, let's go. Okay, so here we are down in the basement. It turns out there were 5 beads on that necklace that needed to be soldered back together. I've already done one of them. I want to show you the process I'm using to do that. So basically the first thing I'm doing is I'm cleaning off just this edge that needs to be soldered back together. I am using this Extra Easy paste solder because I don't want to get these any hotter than I have to. And I'm putting that kind of along the edge. And then I'm using a straight pin to hold them into the brick like this so that they are kind of lined up together. Okay, now I'm going to use just a little heat on this, and if it starts to get too red, I'll know to take it off so it doesn't melt. What I'm looking for is that to get pretty hot and to get like a kind of a bright silver line around that edge where the solder is. But there's a very small time between when a piece this small is going to flow and when it's going to melt. So, and that flame that you're seeing, that's probably because there's all that tarnish and just kind of form material on the silver that's burning. If you're working with clean pieces, you won't normally see fire like that. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay, we're getting pretty hot, so I think that's probably good. I don't see any solid flow out, but we're getting kind of hot. Oh yeah, on this side I'm definitely seeing kind of a little wet line around the seam. So, okay, let's see if I can pull that pin out. Nope. Okay, so I got that pin out. It's not as perfectly aligned as some of the other pieces, but it is at least now, again, one solid piece. Okay, so I'm going to pop that into the pickle. Okay, so I have unstrung the beads. These are the ones that I have soldered together. They, you can see they have a matte finish. They're kind of gray. They're going to need a little different treatment, so I'm going to set these aside for now. The rest of the beads, you can see they are very tarnished, and these are just plain dirty. My hands get dirty just handling these. I don't want to, get, a chemical treatment on these. I do want to preserve some of this finish on them. So I am just going to clean these in a little hot water and soap, see if I can get some of that dirt off. You can see how dirty my thumb got just touching that one right now. And then I'll lay them out and let them dry. My plan with these is just to do a little light washing and then maybe rub them down with a light polishing cloth. I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, so I've given these just a light wash with some hot water and dish soap, and you can see they already look a lot cleaner, and it's really brought out some of the details in the stamping on some of these. And really what we want to preserve is being able to see the stamp, so we want to preserve that kind of darkening inside the stamp. That's why I don't want to use any kind of real chemical treatment on these. So we'll see how these look after a little polishing up. Thankfully, I live in a pretty dry climate. I am going to give these at least a day or two to fully dry off. Okay, and I'll bring these back and we can look at them once these have dried off and I've just lightly polished them with a cloth. All right, so let's take a quick look at how the beads are looking right now. Okay, so these are the beads that were washed. These were just washed with a little dish detergent and some hot water, and then just lightly polished with a polishing cloth. And you can see they're looking all right. They're pretty clean, kind of shiny, almost a little too new at this point. So I really don't want to do anything else with these. Now, while I was cleaning these, 2 more of them did split open. So I ended up with a total of 7 that needed to be soldered. While I was washing these, I noticed some of them do have along the seam a little green corrosion. I think that's why some more of these split. I think these were at some time exposed to some chemicals, maybe just salt or something, and that kind of corroded along the solder at the seams, and that's why we had some. You can see definitely on this seam, on this one, that it had a little corrosion there, and that's probably why they split open. Okay, and these are the ones that have been soldered, and you can see the finish on these. I did have to use a polishing wheel to get the heat scale off of these, so I am going to have to buff these, and I'm probably going to use a little liver of sulfur to try and get them a little blackening to try and have them match more like this. So I'll get back to you once I've done a little more work on these and see how well I can get them to match those original beads. All right, so I am just about at the point of restringing this guy. So these are the beads that I cleaned off, and these are the ones that I have soldered and I polished to match, and you can see they are a pretty good match. There is not much difference between the two at this point. Once I mix these in, you'll be hard pressed to tell them apart. Yeah, so it's pretty much ready to go. Here's the nausea. All I did with this was I just used the polishing cloth and kind of just polished it down a little so that it would match the beads. You can see on the back it still has a lot of the original kind of wear and tear, especially in the areas where it's not so raised. And I don't know if you can see that little mark it has on it. It looks like a PB. I have not been able to find that maker's mark, but it does have a mark on there. And these are the original clasps, the hook and the eye. These were originally soldered with some, I think it was some kind of lead solder. They were soldered to the chain. I unsoldered them. I made a little loop on the end of the hook so that I will be reusing these and connecting these to the new chain. And since I'm going to chain them, I thought I would show you some of the ways I like to connect the ends of the foxtail chain, because that's what I use on squash blossoms when I restring them or when I make them. Okay, so there are a few different ways I've done it over the years. This is one way I do it. I use these little crimp beads like this. So, okay, here's an example of one of these. I've gotten these off Etsy. They look like this. Let's see if we can focus in on that. This is a sterling silver connector. It has a little loop, and then it has this little like tube on the end. And what you do is you put that in there, and then you would crimp that middle section there. And sometimes I'll even take the spark welder and do a little spark weld on that. One complaint I have about these is once you crimp it down, sometimes you'll get an edge that'll be a little itchy. So I don't use these as much anymore. Sometimes I'll still use them. That was a cat. Anyway, another method I've used a few times is where I will take the foxtail and I will loop it over itself, and then I will use the spark welder and I will weld it to itself. That's not a bad method. It is fairly secure. You see I did that with this copper squash blossom I made. One complaint I have about this is you tend to have to make the hole on that first bead bigger to have it kind of fit back in there, because I do want it to fit back in there so you don't have that end of a squash blossom, the end of the foxtail sticking out, because then that will be, that'll irritate your skin. So that's another method I've used. The one I am currently using most frequently is I will actually I will open up the very end of the foxtail, just the little links on the foxtail, and I will put a jump ring into the links, and I will use the spark welder to solder it. This is not one I made. This is actually one I fixed that was originally done this way, but the jump ring was not soldered, and I was wearing it one day, and the chain, it didn't break, but it actually slipped through the jump ring and the beads came off. So I went back in, I restrung it, and I did solder that in with the spark welder. So that's kind of the way I've been doing it recently. And when I do that, what I do is I'll take the chain, I'll take a little needle or something like this, I will push it through those links, and I will kind of just push it to bend them open big enough to get a jump ring through. So that's what I'm going to be doing with this one. Another tip is I would like to take the other end, the end that I'm going to use as a needle, and I will just wipe some super glue on that to make it straight, to make it easier to get through the beads. So that's what I'm going to be doing for this. I'm going to figure out which chain I want to use and get it to the right length, and I will string this up and I will show it to you as soon as I have it done. All right, I'll see you in a few. All right, so here we are with the fully restrung piece. Yeah, so this is it after having, soldered the beads together, restrung everything. You can see I've cleaned all the pieces. I did leave some of the original, I guess you could call it patina or, you know, just tarnish on some of these. I didn't want to really do a deep cleaning on any more than I had to. So let me know what you think. Was it better to have cleaned this and resoldered the beads, or should I have left it as is? Yeah, I'm fairly pleased with how it turned out. I would rather have not had to clean it and resolder the beads. If those beads had not, you know, fallen in pieces, I would have left it alone. Looking at it, I do see a few of the beads on here that I think may at some point in the future, say like this one, you know, that have what I would consider weak seams, because I think at some point this was exposed to some kind of chemical or something. So, you know, maybe, you know, a few decades in the future, if this is again, you know, allowed to get tarnished like that, or allowed to, you know, rust, or, well, not rust, but corrode like that, it may again need that kind of treatment. So, and you can see that I did alter the clasp. I did just put it on a foxtail with a little jump ring. I didn't solder directly to the chain as the previous you know, person who strung it did. I don't even know if that was the original person who strung it. I kind of doubt it, just because we do have these kind of mismatched beads on here. I'm assuming this was probably kind of constructed from some previous pieces. Okay, well, there you go. There it is, all ready to wear. So go ahead and let me know what you think. I do have an Instagram where I am posting pictures of both pieces in my collection and squash blossoms I see out in the wild at museums or at stores. So go ahead and check the link out there and you'll see even more pictures. Okay, so thank you for watching. Have a good one.